It's down, bitch. Be humble. The camera is fucking moving.
Hi, friend. I was talking to some people on here with Rachel. We're chewing gum. Annoyingly, I'm sure. I'll stop chewing it relatively soon. It just smelled so good when Rachel chewed it that I said, I gotta try some of that their gum. Here I am chewing it. Anyway, oh hi Isaiah Rude.
Hey. Ow.
I checked my email for the first time in God knows how long. Then I saw an old email from him. I didn't look at it in detail. But I think it was you. I whoops. You do? Do you whoops often? Or why? Is it because of your lack of words? Are you a man of few words or a man of many words, Isaiah Rude? ISTPs are people of very few words. They aren't the type of people who are likely to revisit the topic of their typing also either. Kankan Krishna Sarma pa 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 goo. How you doing, Kankan Krishna Sarma pa goo? How you doing, IAG last?
Hey.
So fourth and fifth slot functions. Fourth and fifth slot functions are the ones where we can do both of them, more or less. When we have to do both of them. So, hi, George. Like, Rachel, fourth and fifth, she's got SE, fifth, she's got NE. Which means she's kind of half-assed, but active about acting on both ways. Same thing with SI and NI with me. I'm kind of half-assed, but active in knowing in both ways. We had an interesting NI-SI revelation earlier where we're looking at this moon card. The moon card in tarot, whatever, for me. But the last conversation she and I had about that card, she was reading something. Hi, Adrian B. She was reading something. That's okay, I got it.
I'm going to go to the bathroom, so.
Okay, thanks, baby. She was reading something indicating that card had a lot to do with rest, periods of rest. So I immediately went to that interpretation of it, and I said, well, as we were talking about before, it says a lot to do with rest. And she's like, rest? It doesn't say that on that card. And I said, oh, no, I know what happened. I said, so, this is kind of like a rest card. And she's like, it doesn't say rest anywhere on there. Where does it say rest? Or basically, why are you saying rest? Because normally you say words that are on the card. I said, well, that was the last thing we talked about. Last time this card came up in conversation or whatever, you were reading something and talked about being related to rest. And so, as a consequence, I naturally go to the last thing I heard about it, recent SI. Rachel, though, is still in her NI place about it, which is, even though she most recently read about rest, it only has a minor overall net impact on her NI regarding that particular question. And so, so yada yada. Okay, so
It's true.
Similarly to this, she's NE SE. The other thing to remember about the fourth and fifth slot functions is that the aspects have a lot to do with everything. So, for example, my fourth slot function SI, it has two aspects, and really it'd be worthwhile to just sort of go over each of the functions and say how they manifest in each aspect. So, okay, extroverted intuition, it's an action function. In its native dimension, there are an internal and external plane for metaphysical, and there's an internal and external plane for physical. Internal extroverted intuition looks like, well, maybe they're going to say this, or maybe they're going to say that, or maybe they're going to do this, or maybe they're going to do that. External extroverted intuition sounds like what I'm doing right now, just talking about ideas and talking them out as I'm thinking them out, basically. Introverted internal field metaphysical, that's on the metaphysical plane, both of them. But extroverted intuition can also work out on the physical plane. It doesn't really do much on the physical plane on the internal. It only does stuff on the physical plane on the external. So it's like I can say words sometimes that'll disrupt the follow-through process of something going on. And mostly the action functions, at least as far as I can tell, seem to disrupt on the alternate plane. They don't really do anything productive there. Now, TI on the internal metaphysical plane is just parsing it out. On the external metaphysical plane, it plays out as extroverted intuition, not as introverted thinking, really, but it's extroverted intuition that checks against that. I mean, it's a different kind of function, right? It's a deliberation function. So you can appeal to a TI, or you can communicate any in a TI sound way, or various things like that, but it doesn't really exist in and of itself as an attentional manner on the external field.
Okay.
The TI on the physical field is very much about how systems work, understanding a circuit board, shit like that. That's not ordinal. So understanding the interplay of processes on a physical level in physical systems is very TI. I would say chess is not TI. Chess is much more TE. But regardless, so now FE on the metaphysical plane, internal, is being aware of how, being embarrassed about something you said wrong at a party when you get home or whatever. That's internal FE. External FE is things you say and do to make other people care about your, think positively about it. You think about you as being either warm or competent, basically. So likable or reliable as an expert in some regard. Now, if you're talking about FE on the physical plane, well, that's going to be expressed as smiling and nodding and all the physical cues of communication. It's still basically a communicative function. If you're talking about SI on the physical plane, well, first of all, SI on the metaphysical plane plays out in a couple of different ways. So SI on the metaphysical plane, the kind that I'm most comfortable with and use most effectively, is coming up with examples, concrete examples. And she's also quite decent at coming up with concrete examples for things. When she's trying to express a general concept, she can come up with concrete examples. That's 8th slot metaphysical SI that's instrumental for her. And in fact, the 4th slot metaphysical SI for me is also instrumental.
Thank you.
Did you put out a video recently?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't tell me.
I thought you saw it.
I don't think I saw it.
Oh,
No.
yeah, I did. I just was like, I don't trust people who don't have their own channel and don't post.
Oh.
And then I said that I had a channel like before coming here, and I actually did post.
Right. I
But
didn't
I
even know.
deleted it.
You deleted the video?
No, the video's up.
You deleted the what?
No, I deleted my old channel.
Oh. Do you seek help with understanding your inner feelings, values, since your FI is bad? No, not really, because that's 7th slot. But let me finish my sort of accounting here of how each of these things plays out. So SI in the metaphysical can be pulling up concrete examples. SI in the metaphysical is also keeping track of your schedule, what you got coming up, shit like that. SI physical is how you're feeling physically, whether you're feeling well or sick or you're hungry or thirsty or all that kind of stuff. So for me and for everybody, I think the 4th slot function in the opposite aspect is an absolute value, but the consistent aspect is an instrumental value. Namely, metaphysical SI for me is instrumental. Metaphysical SI for her and physical SI for her are instrumental because it's her 8th slot function. But for me, physical SI is absolute, which is why she and I have a very different relationship with our SI. I'm very much more rah-rah. I'm very much more, she's chewing gum. I'm very much more like into like, stretch and all that kind of shit. you can just see the difference in the SI and me in general when we're even sitting here. Except for the fact that I'm fairly aware of my body right now, I'm rather fidgety. I'm bouncing my knee as I almost always am, and Rachel's sitting pretty still as she usually is.
True.
Why does Rachel seek help with TE? She doesn't seek help with TE. She seeks help with whatever problem she has in her life, and it requires TE. Like, it's different than that, than seeking help with TE. My problems don't tend to be FI problems, but if I do, I definitely go to Rachel with them. Is that seeking help with FI? I don't even know if that counts as seeking help with it. It's like she said something that hurt my feelings, I definitely say something about it, right? And hopefully I misinterpreted her or whatever. But does that mean I'm seeking help with FI? It means I'm sort of seeking clarification on a TI problem I'm having that's hurting my FI feelings. Jean Gray asks, how do you experience SE fourth slot?
I can do it for a period of time, I feel, but I can't do it over a routine set course of time.
So what I would call that is physical SE is an absolute value for her. Metaphysical SE is instrumental. And what that means is specifically, well, for you, it's 7th slot, Jean Gray. But what that means is she's down with the physical SE stuff. Like, she likes to go places, she likes to do things, she likes to have sexual intercourse. She likes physicality. She likes to go for walks, shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't like following through on something decided on a routine basis regularly.
Yeah.
That SE aspect, which links more to valued SI, is not something she likes at all. It's purely instrumental. She might have to do that sometimes, but she doesn't ever seem to like it. Now, equivalently, for me, SE is mostly instrumental on both accounts. So it's like I'm perfectly happy generally staying in more than Rachel is, probably just chilling, watching shit. But I too feel like I need to get out of the house sometimes. And knowing that it matters to Rachel that we do stuff makes me want to do stuff because I want Rachel to be happy. And also, the other thing is I tend to do a lot of shit that includes Rachel anyway that I have to do for other reasons. So I don't really have to go out of my way. I mean, Rachel seeks SE. That's where she's actually looking for my provision. And that's where I'm actually seeking SI. Like, I like to get her to like rub my back or shoulders or something. It is very SI seeking. And sometimes I'll say, I want FI time with you, Rachel. But probably what I really want is SI time. I want the physicality and the cuddling, and the FI part actually makes me almost uncomfortable. And not because I don't like it, but because it's this weirdly strong, disabling kind of feeling in me that I don't really know what to do with. And it just tends to make me just spit out shit. Are you good at comparing Big Five to MBTI? I mean, what do you mean comparing them? What is your understanding of what SE is rather than doing shit? It seems to me it's about opportunism, staking claims, having awareness when there is ground to be gained. Again, Ron Solo, you do make an important point. SE, let's talk about SE. Remember, SE manifests in 4 different ways. All right. And if we don't begin with that, we'll never get it right. Okay. We have to understand that there are 2 metaphysical planes, internal and external, 2 physical planes, internal and external, and that all functions can't be understood except in their relationship with those planes. So SE is definitely opportunism. What that is real. There's also a corresponding time element for each of these dimensions, right? The corresponding time element for the physical realm, the natural time element, is the real time element. Real time playing out across time. And the natural time element for the metaphysical plane is turn-based. In other words, conditional or ordinal, one of the two. So the thing is, in real time, SE in the moment is externally attention focus on the environment, the people, everything going on right now. In that sense, it is all about opportunism. But you got to remember that even being opportunistic, let's say I choose the opportunity to go walk across the bar and look and go pick up on this girl who smiled at me and uncrossed and crossed her legs again. Okay, I still have to follow through on it. I get up, I have to walk 6 steps across the room and go chat with her. There's a follow through element in every action, no matter how opportunistic it is. You can't get away from the follow through aspect of it. You can only minimize the time focus of the follow through aspect of it. So to try to detach SE from follow through or doing things is a mistake, for sure.
True.
Have you always embraced SI, or is that something that come about with age? Good question, Tom Jickelson. It's definitely gotten a lot stronger with age. Isaiah Rude, if I typed you as INTP, you are an INTP. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
If I spend a whole hour typing you and type you as
Yeah.
INTP, then haters who are simply trying to tear me down should not be a good reason for you to doubt your type. It's not like they're well-intentioned at all, okay? It's not like they're actually doing objective calculi here. They're looking for whatever they can to tear me down, which includes typing everybody I type as something different than I typed them as. Trust me. You're going to have to trust me on this one. It's an FE thing. They're not reliable people you're talking to. Rachel, could you take over while I smoke a cigarette?
Sure.
Thank you, darling.
Yeah, but you could always follow through tomorrow or the day after or next week or next year. It ain't hard to get me to question. I mean, I think a lot of that's happening nowadays. A lot of people are questioning their types, but I don't know. Yeah. Do you question a lot of things, Isaiah Rude? Like, in general? We're supposed to have some interesting weather here. I think so. Yeah, so like, okay, and basically I'm just asking in general in life, like, do you question like big things? Yeah, okay.
Like
I question
penis?
most claims. Okay, that's kind of what I meant. You know, like if there's a certain philosophy that's out there, you know, even life. I can see, do you question life a lot, even like meaning? If you learn the functions and how they work in which slot, it's not so easy anymore. The possible type went down rapidly.
Well, look, this is the thing, Isaiah Rude. You need to remember that the TI of an ISTP is designed to serve ultimately, or at least it's the implicit frame, but it also works within the frame of the third slot function of NI. ISTP is not going to constantly be questioning shit all the time. They're gonna use their TI to come to a singular conclusion. They're gonna stick with it. You're just not an ISTP.
That's true. They do. You've said that a lot. All the time.
It's when other people's will is in my way, that's when I hit the brakes. Well, I mean, Ron Solo, it sounds like maybe a response to FE, not to SE. You know, your SE polar tends to play out in terms of being decisive about anything. Like if you are in fact fourth slot SE polar, then fourth slot FE SE polar INTP, or fourth slot TE SE polar INFP, then you're going to have trouble seeing the point of, for example, needing to make a decision and follow through on it, right? You like to be able to deliberate indefinitely. Would NI first slot question their type? I think they question it until they get it right. I think Rachel questioned her type until she got it right. I don't think she questions it anymore.
I question why the type, like why on traditional personality types it gets messed up. That's what I question. But why is it so?
Let me ask you this question. Since I typed you as INFJ, have you had any occasions where you go like, but I'm not really like this?
No, I see how far I deviate from ENFP, actually. I can't believe it. I always knew it inside, but I didn't know it like externally what to look for, honestly.
Right. Well, because there's so much wrong information out there about cognitive function.
Yep.
I was talking to a supposed INFJ in Discord, and she said that since she's an NI dom, a lot of things make sense for her, and the easy she conceptualized life was that it's a process in which you have to cope. I mean, I don't know if that's an INFJ thing to say or not. It's true that INFJs have a lot of certainty about certain things, but they also are open because the fifth slot any. So it's a kind of a mixture of things. It's like, and what you're describing sounds more like NI tool function than NI dominant. Isaiah Root, I don't think ISTPs are likely to say that either, because ISTPs are not fans of improvisation, being expected to pull off some shit out of their ass at a moment's notice at all. They're polar.
Even when you're playing a video game with them, they want you to practice with them so that when you do play it, actually, like, you'll get it down. It's true.
You do ignore TE, Jean Grey. That's true. It's your ignoring slot. The thing about INTJs, they don't necessarily share their NI with you very much.
INTJs?
They kind of keep it to themselves a lot of times.
I think that's why INTJ and INFJ can work on a friendship level, because sometimes they do talk about that stuff. It kind of helps the INTJ think a little bit. Not. Oh, sorry.
Oh, Rachel, you pushing buttons?
Yeah, I am.
You're in trouble. I will, Datar. You know how you said that your SE is in service of your NE? Does that mean that ESXPs can improvise fairly well as long as it's in service to their SE? Yeah. And just about anything can be in service of their SE because it's just doing shit. The thing is, they can improvise fairly well as long as that's not the goal in and of itself, right? So that doesn't mean they can ultimately like be great freestyle rappers or anything. It means if called upon to teach a PE class or whatever, they'll figure it out on the fly.
Yeah.
You know? Feelings have to be processed. I want to talk about feelings for a little bit. FI is this thing that I keep experiencing in this relationship. Almost exclusively good FI. But occasionally I'll have bad FI that links to Rachel will be telling a story about something from the past, and oh, I went to this place with some sort of boyfriend or whatever, and then I'll have this momentary FI bad feeling thing.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what I've learned about it is I just have to process it, which means I have to just sort of feel it out and realize that that those feelings aren't about anything real, and that they're just about some sort of something in my head. Like, because go ahead.
Whenever we talk it out, it usually is something. I'll hit like a chord before even finishing the story, or I'll tell you the story and you process it, and then come back and I'll be like, "Wait, no."
I tend to, when I'm feeling negative FI like that, I'll basically be like, well, it sounds like you really like that guy, and I express some sort of fear, like, oh, well, maybe there's this guy from your past that you really, really liked, but he broke up with you, and if he were to come back, he'd be a threat to me or something. And the thing is, those fears aren't grounded in any sort of reality. They're just fears.
And I have the same fears, so don't worry about it.
All right. So to answer the Will Guitars question, I mean, you've got to find somebody for whom it doesn't matter. And there's plenty of such people in the world. And it's unfortunate that it does matter.
It's funny. What was he like? My ex? Are you kidding me?
Her ex sounds like a really good dude.
That's
Yeah, they were all great guys.
That's why I'm still with them, right?
She was with, let's see, what was it? Nobel Prize winner, fighter jet pilot, lion tamer.
You know what?
Why did you break up with the lion tamer?
I mean, that's a good question. I understand it's the adrenaline there, right? That gets you. That got me.
Right.
I mean, he's able to tame a lion. Mm-hmm. So I'm impressed by that, but he wasn't able to tame me. So.
Was I able to tame you?
Yeah. But it wasn't even taming. I just came to you, period.
Yeah.
It was like a really nice moment. Easy.
Tom Jefferson. No, look, the point is there's a difference between basic human compassion, which is contained within FI. All right, there's no doubt about that. Like, you have an instinctual FI revulsion to seeing suffering, then you're experiencing, FI, an FI reality of being a human being. But that's not ethics, because sometimes suffering is just and the right thing to have occur. And context does matter. And, there are a lot of FI realities that simply don't line up with morality in any meaningful sense. I might have a very strong FI feeling towards vengeance, for example, and it might not be the right thing to do. So, FI is attachment, which is to say people are attached to the basic underlying assumption, the expectation that they have that they're going to go through life without having to witness a lot of suffering in front of them, for example. Mm-hmm. When that expectation runs afoul of reality, or when reality runs afoul of that expectation, people react emotionally. But it's also the case that people expect to be treated justly. So if somebody is treated unjustly, their FI comes into play and they expect some sort of retribution. FI can be clingy. It's possessive for sure. But I don't think it's necessarily clingy. I actually feel more secure in this relationship, despite the fact that I love Rachel more than I've ever felt any kind of emotion for anybody. I feel less clingy in this relationship because I trust her. I don't know. I still do a couple little distrustful habits. Like, anybody talk to you on your phone recently? I'll ask you that question or something. But yeah, I trust her for good reason. I think we both believe each other's FI is what it boils down to.
Yeah.
If you
I
really
love your FI. It's one of my favorite things. Ah,
thanks, baby.
yeah. Like this. It's so good.
I half time I don't even know what she's talking about, but it's fine.
It shows on your
You know, it's
face,
like
your
she talks about
FI.
my facial expressions and my smile. It says, you know, she's obviously reading FI cues that I'm not really even aware of giving off.
Yeah.
So,
You're not able to lie well.
I don't lie at all. I don't lie well at all. Hold on. It's you can see right through me. If I'm if I'm trying to willfully consciously lie, it's almost impossible for me to do it. Unless I'm dealing with a cop or something, then maybe fine. Because if somebody's got an unfair advantage over me, then all bets are off.
Yeah.
And I determine whether it's unfair depending on circumstances. Are you both prone to being in long-term relationships? Yeah, we are.
Yes. I like being in a relationship. Much better than dating.
I think we got a troll with some knowledge.
Yeah. I did used to live in North Carolina. With some knowledge.
Yeah, I put him on timeout. He was already being trolly, so
That's funny.
I don't know what kind of information he has.
Oh, there was nothing.
Stony 501. Oh my God, where in North Carolina? I used to live there too.
I used to live in Raleigh for 8 months. It was real exciting. I stayed there a long time.
So,
yeah, it was a while.
What's the difference between ethics and morality? Well, ethics are normally referred to sort of external morality. So I think of ethics specifically as referring to basically all manners of negative moral indication. Stony 501 says, I was in Durham for school.
Cool.
Is that near Raleigh?
It's fairly close.
So, like, for example, the question of whether or not one should use a public office to further one's own interests at the expense of, you know, basically conflict of interest kind of things. Those are matters of ethics. Well, I mean, they're different. They're not in conflict with each other, actually. MBTI says because the judges, the introverted judges seem like perceivers more because they've got a perceiving function as their tool function, then we're going to call them perceivers. And because the introverted perceivers have a extroverted judging function as a tool function, we're going to call them judges. That's fine. That makes sense. But also it's true that it's nevertheless a shorthand way of describing sort of display similarities that ignores other realities. Eric, is the way you use NI as an ENTP the same way I use NE as an INFJ? Yeah, it would be equivalent. They're both ignoring functions. What it means, more or less, is that you operate with a currency of novelty, at least for the external world. The things seem of value or not of value to you have a lot of little currency based on novelty and ideational robustness, so to speak, or ideational quantity. concurrently, I view the external world through an NI frame as to how much it resonates with the truth, and novelty impresses me a lot less. I seek it in my own life. Your dominant function is one that you really try to manifest yourself as, whether you intend to or not. But yeah, ENFP here. I don't understand the FE when dealing with friends and the need to be in social groups with my FE husband. I need to go out and make sure we are invited. Well, is your husband an ESFJ or an ENFJ? Because that's what it sounds like. And in that case, well, let's see. What would be a better match for an ENFP? Would it be an ENFJ or an ESFJ? Probably ESFJ would be a better match for an ENFP. If your husband's an ENTP, are you sure? How old is he? Maybe. ENTP, ENFP relationship? I mean, he's 50? Okay, well, that helps. He still wants to go out that much? He needs to start a YouTube channel.
That's a good idea.
Obviously. Not totally. Round Solo. I actually have an extremely convenient theory, which makes a lot of sense, that for perceivers, for socionics perceivers, not MBTI perceivers, for socionics perceivers, you need to be intuitives. You need the Mirage type. For socionics judges, you need duality. And the reason is because I've got this, what's it called? What do you say about the INTJ and ISTJ relationship? Boo.
I know you think.
I will. I don't know. My it's good. Does Rachel reject TE information? I don't know what to say about that, though, Eileen. Does Rachel reject TE information over TI can't figure it out for herself, TE polar? Basically, she doesn't tend to view things through a goal framework at all. It's one of the main manifestations of TE polar. It's a lot different than ISFJ TE polar in that it's a lot less physical. There's a lot fewer physical actual things that I need to help with, because she doesn't really attempt many physical actual things. She's not trying to rearrange the place. She's not trying to, so it comes as a failure to understand a sort of goal framework in general. Which is great because I really countervalue it. It's why I think, in part, with perceivers, it needs to be this way because it's more important with the interface functions that they're countervaluing line up with the aspects. Namely, she displays her polar least in the physical world and most in the metaphysical world, which is where, which is fine because I hate metaphysical TE. That's the thing I'm constantly opposing, is the idea that we frame things through a goal. Like tonight, we were talking about the channel, and I was like, yeah, I've not been doing anything, and I don't know, I don't know what's going on with it, and I guess I'm just sort of moving away from any sort of money idea goal here entirely. And she's like, oh, that's good, ISFJ would not say that. ISFJ would not respond that way.
You're right.
if ethics are external and morality is internal, when I say morality is about positive moral obligations, ethics are about negative moral obligations. Ethics are about what you can't do without being unethical. Morality is what you can't do without being unethical, plus what you should do to be moral. So there you go. That sums it up. It's the only meaningful way to taxonomy the thing. And then, sort of natural, authentic revulsion to evil is one aspect of FI, but so is cruel, sadistic satisfaction and suffering. That's also part of FI. So it's definitely not. It definitely isn't ethics or morality.
We use that in our own way.
It's like, it's weird that so many people want to call FI morality because things I am saying here seem very obvious, right? That there are bad, cruel feelings as well as good, loving feelings. There aren't bad, cruel, TI consistent outcomes if you have the right metaframe. If you agree on the good as the good, in other words, we're not going to violate prohibitions that it's like the shit that cascades down shouldn't allow shit that's intuitively awful to happen. And we have to rely on that intuitive understanding of the good on some level as something we can both agree on. But we can argue away any false representation of the good because it's usually going to be a rights violation of some sort. Do I watch the news? I was watching it last night with my dad for a little while. I don't normally. I mean, neither TE nor SE wants to concretize things. It is the case that TE is how one pays attention to attaining a goal that must be attained ordinally. In other words, the key element of TE is ordinality, that things require a certain order of operations. For shit that doesn't require order of operations, it doesn't require TE. If it requires something that seems like order of operations but isn't, then it's conditionality, and you're talking about TI. And TI and TE are very similar in some ways, but ordinality is very distinct from conditionality, and we can easily draw the distinction, and it's very specific and definitionally sound and all that kind of stuff. So understanding TE as ordinality is the first thing to deal with. Now, remembering, of course, that it has itself two aspects, physical and metaphysical. In the physical aspect, ordinality occurs in terms of like this. First, you dig the hole, then you put the body in it, then you put the dirt back on top, right? If first you dig the hole, then you put the dirt back in, then you put the body, you've been unsuccessful at burying the body, right? It doesn't want anything. TE is a way you pay attention. Okay?
It just made me think of the way they're making the coffee right now.
How did you make it?
Well, I'm like figuring out the steps that I want to make it.
Okay. Grateful for Denny. I wish Disney. Grateful for Denny. Grateful for Denny's would be probably a cooler name, frankly. ENTP husband of Grateful for Disney. I'm going to throw down the gauntlet. Your wife has an incredibly dorky name.
Aww.
But you know what? I'm not dissing her for that. I got plenty of incredibly dorky things myself.
Mm-hmm.
We're drinking coffee. Well, I mean, TI adjudicates according to a standard of logical correctness. Does it view logical correctness as normatively better? Yes. using the attentional manner of TI means prioritizing things consistency over inconsistency. It means choosing inconsistency over inconsistency, looking for inconsistency in things as a way of paying attention. Like it's saying, all right, it's saying what I just did right there with TI doesn't want things. Well, no,
Hey,
cognitive
Mom.
functions don't want things because that's inconsistent with what cognitive functions are. Cognitive functions are functions like they're in math. Plussing doesn't want things to be added together. It's just how we're just interacting two things, right? We're using a function upon two objects.
Aww. I'm a mouse.
ENTP, Chris Dodson. As an HP, you can put up with anything. You can put up with a lot anyway.
I think you can.
And you probably won't quite even ever understand if there's anything missing or if there's not. And you'll never really know. Okay. Oh, the rationalization. Oh, the NI ignoring. Chris Johnson. You're killing me here. I'm trying to be nice. You're ignoring the living fuck out of your NI, dude. Relationships should be easy, squeezy, soft, and sleazy. Maybe not the sleazy part, but you're really, really clever. You just know how to use words. Those are the words you're saying. Do you really, really love her? You don't know. You have no idea.
I'm confused.
Chris Dawson's just being an ENTP. You advise them.
Oh. Am I supposed to advise you? Oh, so you guys are on this together right now. Relationships are. I'm actually, just so you guys know, I'm actually also on my phone too. I have a wrench as well. So.
Are you policing anybody on there, Rachel?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm watching.
Are you policing anybody in particular?
Yes.
Okay.
So grateful for Disney. Do you have a favorite Disney movie? Or one that you watch over and over again?
They'll forever fight. You're never going to agree. He's using TI tools. She's using FI tools. They got each other's tool is polar. They're going to fight forever.
Over the same stuff. Will, so I saw that you created your YouTube today. Cinderella, that's sweet. My cousin's favorite movie was Cinderella. How did I deal with past relationships? I don't know how to answer that. It's a very broad question. I would be in them. I would work in them. I would be in the relationship. And if there were things that didn't work out, we broke up.
Did you used to work at that place, Rachel?
I did. I did used to work at the Triangle Town Center. I worked at the Twisted Fork as a hostess.
And who in that time period called you Ray?
Billy Orlando.
I see. That's probably who that is. Then.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, Isaiah Rude. That's really nice. Eric paranoid again. Sorry, timed out. Will, make sure to scold him when you get back. The functions themselves, of course, do not want things, but they cause the person they reside in to want things accordingly. I do think people are truly trying to anthropomorphize functions. Anthropomorphize functions. What does that word mean?
Means give them people-like qualities. So basically, what the right term would be, people commit a reification fallacy when talking about cognitive functions. They attribute the aspects of an agent to that which is not an agent, namely the ability to take action and want things and things like that. But it's just speaking in metaphor. We do it all the time with all sorts of things. So normally I let it slide, but when people ask me the question directly, so you're saying TI doesn't want now? Well, then I have to address it directly and say, well, that's actually a reification fallacy. Functions don't want things. People are entities that execute functions. Is it one way of looking at it? You want to mechanize it as much as possible. Is it that straightforward? Well, I mean, obviously there's a lot of attention that isn't willfully activated. Like, for example, drawing associations, a memory with some other association or whatever.
Japan loves to do that. They make everything into anime girls. Apparently, like, Japan society has changed a lot. They work a lot. The men work a lot. I think probably the women too, and they sleep at their desks. If you go home at the time that you're supposed to go home, you're seen as not working enough. And guys and girls are not having sexual intercourse either. Hello there says, by stupid you mean numb to your own intellect? Yes. Grid Studson. Okay, Eric, here's my question for you. As an ENTP, how do you deal with stupid people and still function?
Well, if they're stupid in ways that are particularly, aggressive to me or something, then I yell at them. But if not, then then I don't worry about it, I guess. Like, for example, today they made us wait 45 minutes in the doctor's office. My mom had an appointment at 9:50. They didn't get us in until 10:35 or so. When I walked in, I said, next time, and I said it like loud in the waiting room as she's holding the door there, so everybody hears. Next time, if we arrive 45 minutes late, will you take us immediately? And she, that's how I deal with people that annoy me, whether they're stupid or not. I don't worry about their stupidity. I worry about the fact that they've crossed me in some way. Like the previous day, some stupid lady came out to me outside. I was sitting at this bench next to the parking structure, smoking a cigarette with Cameron, who was also smoking a cigarette. You should check out his new video, by the way. Mm-hmm. Everybody should check out Cameron's new video. This is ISTJ Fantastic.
It's great.
Please do watch it. Please do like it. He's my IRL friend, and he spent a long time compiling footage for this video, comparing this bicycle and these two other things, and it's only like 5 minutes long,
and
but
it's
impressive.
Great. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's typical ENTP or not. I think it may be more of an Enneagram thing. I got 8, second in my tri-type, so I deal with being mad by being mad. Well, I don't worry about their intelligence. It's like everybody's stupid about something is one of my expressions. Everybody's stupid about something. I'm stupid about things too. So I don't worry about people being stupid about things unless it's causing me problems.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. Like the lady at the place, right? She came over to us. She said, this is a no smoking property, the whole property. And I said, I don't see any no smoking signs here. And she said, well, it is. There's non-smoking signs over there. I said, well, that's why we're not smoking over there. She said, well, the whole property is not smoking. I said, well, I'm not saying you're lying to me, but you wouldn't expect me to accept your claim without any evidence whatsoever, would you? And she said, fine, I'll go get security. Go ahead, stupid bitch. So, I deal with them like that. I deal with them just like that. How else would I deal with them? Don't fuck with me.
I love that.
It's just that simple. Don't fuck with me. I don't have any problem with you. So that's how I deal with shit. It's like I get all kinds of interesting shit happening here. It's like I deal with all kinds of critics. People come with all kinds of hate. People come with spite. People come with bullshit. People come with honesty. People come with dishonesty. I see it all. I mean, right now, we got Rachel's ex-boyfriend here in the live chat. So, that's an FI shocker for sure. That gets the FI moving in my chest.
Well, we did have I did pull the 3 of Swords today, right?
You did. That's true.
I mean,
So, that's interesting. That's a good point.
I love Isaiah Root showed his brother. God, Rock's fucking great.
Enneagram, I think, has plenty of validity. It doesn't seem to be mutually exclusive of anything in cognitive functions.
Correct.
It explains something reasonably well. It's not exactly what I would call TI sound, but it's a nice metaphor. And I think it actually explains things in ways that are pretty consistent with data, and it doesn't run afoul of cognitive functions at all. In other words, it's a different domain. No, Mike Hart's not her ex.
No.
But the 512 subtypes, absolutely nonsense. The reason things are configured the way they are is for mechanical reasons. Look, I mean, because there's only so many kinds of function one can execute on a given system within a given mechanics and yada, yada, yada. Rachel, what are your big 5 results? Do you know?
Yeah. Actually, I used to have a picture of it on my Instagram just in case anyone questioned it. Because that's who I am. I'm extroverted on the big 5. Right? Is that one? Was this Ocean, right?
Yeah.
I'm very open. So see, I'm not conscientious.
Thanks, Elijah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Isn't that great? I like that. I like what he had to say too. I'm 50% agreeable and I'm not neurotic. That's my big 5. I don't remember the percentages. I deleted my own copy of it, I think.
I have to go back and see what he said. Favorite bands, music records.
What?
Rachel and I have almost identical taste in music. It's really strange.
Yeah, we do.
I think it's fair to say she likes my music as well.
Yeah, I love your music. That's what I used to comment on the most, actually. Yeah.
I haven't read any of those books on my bookshelf. Those books are going to make me appear like an expert. There's some people out there who are impressed by books on a bookshelf. So
it's true.
I decided to sort of play a meta joke on them by putting some random books up there. They're not random. They look cool. They're books that look cool.
Yeah. I really like the way that you spread out the religious books, like the Buddhism is there and the...
Yeah.
Looks good.
Rachel Annie likes studying human design. Oh, we looked at it briefly. It's a lot of stuff to it.
Oh yeah, we did. What I thought was the most interesting out of that was that he was very Mars and I was very Venus. That stuff. It was pretty interesting.
Right. Ron Solo, you successfully diagnosed the issue. Our SI people, I think TE people in general look for what I would call symbols of competency rather than assessing the competency themselves. So it's like if you're a deliberation function above a interface function, you're going to be much more internal in your deliberations. And if you're an interface above, then you're going to be more external in your deliberations. In other words, FE tool is going to be more convinced by what everybody thinks, for example, whereas TE tool is going to be convinced by the heuristics, the symbols of competency, credentials, yada yada.
Uranus is keeping in December checked. You're right. It is.
Oh, Rachel. My anus is gaping.
It's actually pronounced Uranus. I don't know when that happened, but I like it.
I agree with people precisely 60% of the time. The rest of the time I tell them to get lost. 81, 85, 15, 29, 52. Any advice for INTP struggling with ADHD? Yes, I have some advice for you. It's called take a whole bunch of speed.
Yeah.
How's that for some advice, sneaky dangling? Who will replace Trump? Probably not me yet. But actually, INTPs, you don't really need to do speed. It's really only ENTPs to do it well. Adderall. ESTPs can benefit from it too.
They do. Actually, when I first tried Adderall, an ESTP gave it to me because he was on it for ADHD.
Shocking.
So,
ESTP
he listened to the man.
ESTP is introducing girls to drugs? Shocking. TI is in charge of the fact, and FE is in charge of the frame, right? That's a good way to put it. Except the thing is, FE's in charge of the dynamic system of social stuff. Bernie's not an INFJ. Bernie's got to be an ENFP for sure. He's got TI polar. He's got no concept of using logic to make determinations about policy. In contrast, I am a longtime policy debate coach and expert in public policy and constitutional law and all those sort of things. So, okay, you're not talking about his ideas at all, are you, Will Datar? You're talking about the man and your perception of his character. I'm not disputing he's a person of good character, but he's got terrible ideas. And if you were to evaluate them as actual policy prescriptions with any sort of meaningful calculus whatsoever, then you'd agree with me. You're really barking up the wrong tree here, Will Datar, Billy. Yeah, I walk across scrubs for breakfast, so
I don't want no scrubs.
yeah, you're don't make me be mean. Anyway, what types are in alpha quadrant? ENTP, INTP, ESFJ, ISFJ. INFJs yearn for peace and seek to inspire and guide others along the path to a better future. Okay, does that mean that everybody who yearns for peace or seeks to inspire is an INFJ?
Because they do type Hitler as an INFJ as well. So,
I mean, think about it. Even if it's the case, that general description of behavior is consistent with INFJs. Is it exclusive to INFJs? If it's not, then it doesn't prove he's an INFJ. In fact, the most social justice warrior of all the types is the ENFP. Yeah. And he certainly is that. Remember also, he wants to actually commit a lot of violence. We forget that because it's well-intentioned, we forget that he's using government use of force. In other words, what makes the government the government? Right, he's a class warrior. The government is that which has a monopoly on use of force. Do you have any definitions for anything, Will Datar? She's smoking marijuana. I'm smoking marijuana as well. I mean, look, how is he planning on paying for his free college plan, for God's sake? By taking money that people have earned. What is wealth? What is wealth, Billy? Do you know what wealth is? You know what money is? You know where wealth comes from? Do you have any ideas about these things? Did it work for you, Rachel? Rachel's
What?
a heavy smoker. No, like she
Yeah,
just tried weed.
I've been smoking since I was 16. I don't know why they pin the most evil people on INFJs. I think that's really messed up, actually.
Well, I mean, ESTJ is different than ENTJ because ESTJ has tool function SI and polar NI, and ENTJ has tool function NI and polar SI. I mean, you can easily differentiate between them by how many examples they use when they talk. ENTJs don't use examples. They don't use specific past examples at all. Almost never in any of their conversation. You can fucking book a plane ticket on it.
I don't mean no. Look, I don't. Hey, villains. There's villains in every single character. But I'm not joking. If you look at villainous INFJs, it's like all the people in like, they have what's his name who blew up 9/11. That guy as an INFJ.
Listen, Ron Solo, you're misunderstanding. First of all, I agree that quote unquote pure capitalism, which is a completely unconstrained, profit-driven market forces, is not a good thing because it has the ability to constrain the capacity of others to engage in fair competition. But you're absolutely wrong when you say that pure capitalism is absolutely perfect in a world with unlimited resources. The reason you're so wrong is the vast majority of the resources that people buy and sell now are not even physical resources. They aren't even physical objects. What are you doing right now? What are you attending to right now? You're chatting with me on the internet. Now, granted, you're not paying for that directly, but ultimately your attention has value to advertisers and stuff. Maybe you are paying for it directly. Maybe you have YouTube Premium. I don't know. But the point is, wealth is not linked in that fashion to resources, to find out resources. Only certain kinds of wealth is, and that's the weakest kind of wealth. So, I mean, ultimately, is land a necessary commodity for wealth to be generated? Yes, but that doesn't mean that all wealth comes from the land. Wealth is a product of people doing useful endeavor for other people. So in other words, I make a little bit of money off of this because I'm a little bit useful to a fair number, not very large number of people. And that in and of itself creates wealth in the world. It creates new wealth. I'm doing work in some regard by providing utility to you. By correcting you in your wrongness, Ron Solo, I'm providing utility that you are paying attention to for some reason. Well, the reason is because I'm right. But the thing to remember here is that it's not a resource matter. People think of capitalism as exploitation of resources. Absolutely not. Capitalism is about providing use to others so as to gain leverage off of them. In other words, if I do you a big favor, you owe me one, right? Money is how we make it fungible. We make leverage fungible. That is to say, we turn it into specific objects that represent a certain quantity of leverage, and we can trade those for goods and services. But until we remember that all wealth is metaphysical first and foremost, it's leverage that people create over other people by being useful to them, then we will get everything about economics wrong. So being useful, economic activity, economic endeavor is in fact a wealth generating thing that you can do. No, Ken Krishna Sarmapagu, you are wrong if you're disagreeing with what I'm saying here. No, you are wrong, Ken Krishna Sarmapagu. Capitalism is fundamentally the lack of use of force preventing people from engaging in mutually beneficial exchange. So capitalism means nobody's pointing a gun at you when you try to engage in some sort of mutually beneficial exchange with another person. You might say that right now, Rachel and I are engaged in a form of capitalism. She is being my girlfriend. That's the most useful thing in the world. And I am supporting her. And that's fine. And I want it to be that way.
So do I.
She's generating new wealth for me.
It's true. And you have been for me.
So
Spiritual wealth.
that's capitalism. Okay, people who want to dismiss it as something else, exploitation, and you're wrong. It doesn't mean that capitalism doesn't sometimes result in exploitation.
Yeah.
It does. Now that's capitalism gone afoul, because underlying all true capitalism is the idea of mutual consent, ideally enthusiastic mutual consent, that both parties are enthusiastically consenting to the same contractual arrangement. And both parties are going to honor it because they're people of honor and character. Now, sometimes ways that people can be useful to other people involve exploitation. If it might be useful to people for me to strip mine this mountainside and take all the iron out of it and leave a big pile of rubble behind. That might be useful to the iron consumers, but it's still something we ought not do. So there is a role for government to protect the environment and other things like that and regulate capitalistic endeavor. Absolutely, there is a role for government to do that. I'm not saying there isn't, but we have to begin at the right spot. We begin at the right spot by realizing what we're talking about, okay? No, not all capitalistic successes are exploitative, Stony 501. You are wrong. So is it exploitative of me to be making money off YouTube? Is it or not? Am I exploiting you right now by having this conversation with you? There is a role for government involvement in regulating markets and stuff. I'm making money though, Stony 501. I'm capitalism, right? I'm making money. I'm profiting from it. You're right. I'm not successful, but I'm still making money.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Billy. Appreciate it. I'm not exploiting, but I'm making money in capitalism. Well, then obviously it's not implicit to capitalism that it be exploitational.
Me too.
They're not just as popular as ever. In fact, it's like there's huge classes of material objects that have totally lost value entirely, like large pieces of furniture and shit. People are just trying to get rid of the thing. I got too much shit all over my house,
I know you've been thinking that.
All right. I'm having gotten Billy's endorsement, I think I'm done for the evening. Stop while I'm ahead. Thanks, Billy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it too.
Ron, you didn't respond to anything I said. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. No, China's not a communist country.